Hello, welcome to Black Talk Show. I have Dr. Carlotta. How you say?
Carlotta, yeah, Carlotta
Yeah,
Gabrielli.
yeah.
Carlotta Eversley Gabrielli.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna start off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I consider myself multifaceted. And the reason why I say that is because, not only am I, an African American woman coming from the Caribbean and, living in having to transcend into a new society as a young adult, but growing in that society and growing and having to recultivate or reenact what is it I want to be and who I want to be. So, I'm a wife of 24 years, married with three beautiful children. My oldest is 23, my youngest is 16, and I'm so proud of them. They're my biggest, biggest supporters, and you know, um, all that I do is for them because I remember when being in a stage and I knew that in order for my children to be the best people, I have to be that person for them
Yeah,
so I can be an example. And my husband also, he has been a beacon of support. So I decided that I wanted to really and truly be that source that can help, not just help mankind, but help in health and help in mental and emotional and spiritual. And I knew one of the ways for me to get there it's in order for me to grow myself, not just as a leader, but as a person and as a human being, so that I can impart. Because I know when my cup is full, I can give and I can continue to give. So I have become a nurse. I've been in the healthcare field for over 25 years, and then I, of course, did nursing. But what has been I would say my anchor in nursing is that I grew myself as a nurse. I went back to school and, and I did my master's, and I worked in different capacity in nursing. And I'm pursuing my doctoral degree, haven't completed that fully yet. So
uh-huh.
the Dr. Gabrielli is coming soon.
Yeah,
But I've been continuously working hard to really and truly build myself. So now I am working as a coach and a consultant,
okay.
and I speak in various opportunities I get just to impart knowledge, raise awareness, and to really and truly share lots of insight because I'm a nurse educator. So one of my goals is always to educate and always to improve in knowledge so that I can share and raise awareness. So I am a beacon. I look at myself as that because I feel God is using me in a magnanimous way. And even though
Yeah.
sometimes I am not sure of my journey, and the
Hmm.
reason why I said that, because it has been so complex. It has been great in one aspect, but it's trialing in the other. And what I realized, you cannot get one without the other because
Yeah.
growth encompasses both. So I've learned to embrace it all,
Yeah.
embrace the journey, become the best me so that I can pour out into the world.
Okay. So this, I have some questions that I like to ask you so that we can get some more insight on your new
Sure.
book and stuff, and on you.
Yes.
So I'm really interested in the book I Rise, Healing in All Realms. Can you tell me what inspired you to write it and share your insights of overcoming struggles and finding purpose?
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for that question. Actually, I wasn't finding a name to suit the purpose of the book. And as I was speaking with my editor, we were discussing different things, and I know for me, Maya Angelou, who has been one of my famous ladies, and I love her, what she stands for, what she speaks about. And I remember her talking about I rise. And she talked about I rise in spite of. So I thought of that and I felt as though my My story is of someone who has overcome. And instead of, but I didn't just overcome, I had to look to God. And that is where my eye and the rise came from, that me looking to God to get that inspiration and for him to help me, to transcend me from where I was to where I am today. And that is how I came up with the name I Rise. The book was birthed just from my struggles. I grew up, I'm from Guyana in South America. I grew up humble beginnings. My father was an attorney and my mom was a stay-at-home for a lot of years until, my parents got divorced and then she had to charter a course for her and us. But just coming from a third world country to the United States as a teenager with no support, my struggles were endless. And lots of times I wanted to give up, lots of times, because didn't know where my next meal was coming from. I had a few friends that really was able to help me and embrace me and cover me. And lots of times when we go through struggle, if we don't have a sense of purpose, we would let that struggle define us. And my goal was to let my pain be my purpose. So after, the struggles, there was lots of resilience, lots of crying nights, lots of, opportunities for me to break. I never got involved in drugs. I was never, I never did anything out of the norm.
No.
For sustainability. And lots of times I didn't have my parents around. I didn't have a support system. It was really, really tough. And I know it was God who kept me.
Yes.
And he kept me and he always had a purpose for me. So for me to share my story, to help others, so that when they're going through struggles and they're going through hurt and going through, to understand that, what, there is a God and he works on bringing us through. And he not just bring us to the other end, but he bring us through. And when I realized that God wanted me to do something bigger than myself, that is when I knew that I had to continue to persevere. I got into nursing school. I decided to work hard while I was in nursing school so that I can elevate myself. I got married. My husband was very supportive. So I was a wife, a mother, and I was a student. And it was just a lot. I was always juggling a lot. But with God's help, I have been able to manage it all. And at the end of it all, I am here to speak my story, that I didn't let struggles define me. As a matter of fact, I use that as a propeller to great things. And here I am to say that, you know what? God is good. In 2023, yes. June of 2023, I was bestowed one of the greatest award, the Presidential Award, yes. Because of the work that I have done as a nurse, and I've worked through COVID. I have worked in education. I've helped to really and truly raise awareness and all of that. And I stand proudly and I'm grateful that I was able to rise.
Yes, persevere.
Persevere. Yes. And it was through God. I always have to give him the glory.
Yes.
Yes.
So my next question is, as a nurse, leader, coach, consultant, and trainer, you have a diverse career. How have your background influenced the themes and messages in your book about resilience and strength?
Oh, wow. I think everything that happened in my life, both personally and professionally, has helped me to be who I am today. And as a coach, one of the things that we have to do as coaches, knowing that that's what you are to my sister in coaching, is help to bring people from where they are to where they want to go. Remove them from being stuck. And when you have overcome, anyone who has overcome, that right there is a testament to you have chosen to move from where you are to where you want to go. And you did it by changing your mindset, changing your company, changing the people that speak into you. Those are some of the things that helps to propel you and change your direction. working as a nurse and overcoming all of my struggles really and truly opened my eyes to the world that we are in, the sadness, the pain, um, people having to just navigate life the best way possible. And I said that I feel as though I am in a position where I can help get them from stop, from being from where they are and where they want to go. Talk to them about the resilience. What does that look like? For me, resilience is getting up every day and doing what is best for you in spite of how you're feeling. Because our feelings will always tell us one thing, but we have to make that decision that I am going to get up tomorrow in spite of how I'm feeling and do what I need to do to get through tomorrow. So the
Yeah.
resilience part and having to work, having my own resilience, working as a nurse, caring for patients, and being in a space where I had to not just unstuck myself, but help others to get unstuck has helped me to be in the space today where I can truly be, I am a living testament of someone who chose to be unstuck and who chose to push past and who gets up every day in spite of the struggles and still try to continue to make a better tomorrow.
Yes, that sounds good. And then you worked through COVID. That was another thing. You had to have some resilience to do that as
Oh,
well.
yes, most definitely. And, I always want to tell people, I remember when I was getting all the calls from all of the hospitals, they needed help. And I was working at one of the hospitals here in Atlanta, one of the biggest hospitals. Actually, I was a Grady at that time, and I was working as an educator. So one of our main goals was to really train our nurses to stay alive. How do we help them to put on and take off their mask? How do we save our nurses and our patients and the babies? And so I had a big task ahead of me. And of course, trying to keep myself safe because my husband is asthmatic, my boys are asthmatic, and I couldn't bring home anything to them. So every day I lived and I always pray that God will bring me home safely to my family and not for me to get them sick, because it was always a concern. And I remember hearing a lot of nurses that I know that passed away, and and I wanted to go to New York, any state that was calling me. I was going to leave my family and just jump in. And then I remember my daughter saying, "Mom, we're still here. We need you."
Yes.
Because at that time I was thinking as a nurse.
Yeah.
And I was like, they need me, the patients need me. And then my daughter and my kids remind me that they needed me more. And so I had to, of course, stay. But it's a good thing I did that because, my organization here needed me and my family needed me. And I needed to stay put to continue what I do as an educator to help raise awareness and also to make sure that we can continue to save lives. So it was very difficult.
Definitely, yeah. So my next question is, could you share a personal story or experience that served as a catalyst for your ideas presented in the book? I love to hear how your journey has shaped your perspective.
So I have so many stories, and it's one of those things I always have to remember that God put me through these things, not for me necessarily. One of the things that comes to mind right now, it's when I was pregnant with our second child. My husband and I was pregnant with our second child, and I was at a hospital in New York, and we had a fetal demise, and it was about 2 weeks before I delivered her. So she was pretty much full term. And, while I was in that grieving state, and I was a patient at that hospital, the nurses were horrible, to say the least. And I remember thinking and bargaining with God that if I get an opportunity to come out of this bed, because I felt it was one of the worst feelings. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I remember, having to deliver her, knowing that she had already was deceased, and she was there in the room with us. They have her there in her little bassinet, and she was there, and it was like, God, I don't know what I've done to to deserve this. And it
Mhm.
was very, very hard. But in addition to that, how the nurses was not good. And I thought of the compassion that was lacking, the empathy that was lacking, because I was not only a patient, I was a patient that was in grief, that was hurting, and I could hear them talking about me and laughing and all of these things. And I just couldn't understand. And I remember having a conversation with God. My conversation with him was, give me an opportunity to get out of this bed and to realign myself to be a nurse so that I can really and truly change this
Yes.
trajectory, because I didn't like that at all. And I remember after everything, I went back to nursing school and graduated and did really well. And then I said, you know what? I don't want to stop here. I want to continue, because I know that the further I go is the more influence I'll have. I will be able to be that change agent, so that nurses can understand what that Hippocratic oath means, that
Yes.
you do not make fun of people's grief. As a matter of fact, you do quite the opposite. You empathize and so forth. So I decided that I will further my education in nursing, and I've been in leadership role, director of nursing, different facilities. So I had a part of the policies and changing and conversations so that we can be a better nurses for our patients.
You
So that
became a
was
change
one
maker.
way. Yes, and I always call myself a change agent. So every organization that I go, I the goal is to be that change agent, so that we can improve not just nursing, but humanity. We
Mhm.
can do better with that. So that was one of the stories that really and truly helped to guide my path when it comes to my professional career. And then my
Yeah.
personal struggles was just lots of struggles as a young girl. Coming up in a country where you were told you must be seen and not heard. You can't speak your mind, and even through abuse and all of that, you had to just take it. and
Mhm.
and for me, I'm empowering women that no, we need to speak out, and we need to speak up, and we need to be unapologetic about that. So
Yeah.
merging those two together is what give me the strength and the courage and the idea for me to write a book and get it out there, so that women can understand that, you know what, we can stand up for ourselves. We can speak up for ourselves. We don't have to take everything and anything and feel as though that's our destiny.
Yeah. That's going into my next question. So, in your book, you mentioned the importance of not letting struggles define us. Can you elaborate on some strategies or advice to offer to help readers navigate the difficult times?
Yes, most definitely. So I can remember I was after delivering and after our fetal demise, I was diagnosed with cancer, rare form of cancer. It was one of those cancers that wasn't found in lots of women. It's and I remember them telling me that I had 3 months to live.
No.
So here I am, and that was in 2001. So
Mm,
it whatever they say, God had a different plan. But
yes.
I remember when they told me that, and it's so funny because they told me that, and I actually felt as though I only had one day to live, because
Mhm.
they're telling me that is what I ruminated on, and that became my story.
Mhm.
Until a few days later, someone else came into me and said, actually, no, what we said to you before, that wasn't the truth, and so forth.
Mhm.
But I remember thinking at that moment how I was actually going to probably die, because I was telling myself that, because that
Mhm.
is what they told me, and that is what I was just living. I was going to die. And as soon as I changed my perspective,
Yeah.
as soon as I had someone to say, no, you're not.
Mhm.
This is where we are. And there are things that you have to do to get healthy, but you're not going to die in 3 months. You, you
Yeah.
you you can beat this. And I really and truly became very strategic then. And I said, okay, I am not going to die. I am going to live long, healthy life. And I am going to be championing other women and encouraging other women to do the same. So every day I get up with an intentionality of a perspective that I am going to live. And then I started to watch what I eat, watch everything that I do, clear my mindset from all of the negative chatter. Anything comes into my space that doesn't help me to be better, I remove myself from that. So I literally had to reframe my network in the brain and in the mind. And how I reframe that is really and truly to ask God to help give me a different focus. And then I started to change my perspective. And I started to change the way I speak, because our words, our thoughts becomes our words become our actions, our action becomes our destiny. So it starts with the thoughts. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to rewire and configure those thoughts. How do we rewire and configure that? I listen to positive things. I listen to, talk shows that will help build me. I get into the space of things that would help me be better. So that's what helped with my thoughts, and then everything else follows. But it's about changing the mindset.
Okay. Okay, I'm curious. I'm curious about the I Rise Healing in All Realms. Can you share the significance behind the title and the ties the overall message of your book?
I rise, and like I said before, it's I rise. As I rise as a person, it was because of my God and me looking up to him. Healing in all realms, that is a big part, because we cannot be better people if we remain the same. We have to be intentional about our healing. We have to be intentional about our growth. For me, I did radical transformational healing, where I had to go not just to God, but I had to find the other means to help me heal my wounds, my hurt, my betrayal, my with my parents separating, that always affects children. All of those things. I had to literally start to heal mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and of course the physical part. But one of the hardest healing for me, it was the emotional part, because we are a product of where we came from. And if we don't change where we came from, then we're going to go right back there. So it's where do we start to change and make that shift so that we can create a different destiny for our children and ourselves. So I really had to work on all aspects of healing. And until then, I was able to really and truly speak from my heart, be authentic, be transparent. In my book, I talk about a lot of things. I talk about a lot of things that has happened to me, a lot of abuse, a lot of, lots of things happened to me. And I compile it all in the book to say that I didn't let this define me. I didn't let this define me. As a matter of fact, in spite of that, I am who I am. And I know that anyone that is going through hard times or struggles, it doesn't matter what you're going through. It is where you're going to that makes a difference.
Yes.
Being resilient, having that grit. Yes.
Yes. Also, let's say, what is one piece of advice from the book that you personally find most valuable and relevant to your own life?
I live by this, by Theodore Roosevelt. He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And for me, my journey has been about growing and learning and amassing the education. I'm going to, be Dr. Gabrielle and all of these things. But what is all of that if I cannot use my journey and use my experience to help the other person that needs a help. What is that if I cannot stretch my hand out and lend a hand out to say, let me help you? So people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So
Yeah.
we have to get into that habit an evolving society post COVID. COVID has separated us. It has made, we have a lot, mental health issues have increased. We have lots of physical abuse, emotional abuse, lots going on in our world today.
Yes.
How do we get to the point where we heal ourselves so we can heal each other? And I spoke at a conference about 3 weeks ago. And one of the things, it was a women's conference, and it was a No Broken Women conference, and lots of women talking about their stories. And it is just amazing. And for me, that is a great thing, because when we unleash and we start to expose and we start to deal, we heal. We have to
Yeah.
deal in order to heal. And I also do believe that heal people. You know, we always say hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
Let's change that dynamic. Let's
Mhm.
be heal people so we can heal others.
Yes.
And that is the premise of my book and my story.
Okay. So what is one piece of advice uh that you take away from your book that you want somebody to get today to get today that they will get from your book?
One of the things, it's overcoming struggle. Overcoming struggle. I want people to know that we can overcome struggle. We have to make that decision to overcome struggle. I started my story on my childhood struggle, the childhood trauma.
Mhm.
And I realized that my childhood trauma has followed me throughout my life until I've gotten to the point where I said, I have to heal me to heal others. And at that point, I made the decision to start that radical healing. And that is where the healing in all realms come in, because we cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot help to heal someone if we are not healed ourselves. So the big thing in my book is, how do we overcome struggles? And I list lots of ways that we can. I list lots of opportunities where I have, and how I did it, and how I continue to sustain this piece that I'm in now, because it's a constant work. Every
Mhm.
day is constant work. So I am intentional about my everyday sustainability of being in this space of healing, because hurt and struggle doesn't just dissipate. We have
Yeah.
to be intentional about healing ourselves.
Yes, yes. So lastly, when this question before the question. Leslie, what can we expect your book? When can we expect your book to be available, and where can we find it? And I'm eager to read it and learn more about your perspective on healing and purpose.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So the goal is, so the book is definitely going to be out by November 15th. That's the goal. That's the target goal. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be Barnes and Noble. It's going to be on the Kindle. And so far, that is where we're working with Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I will update if there's more additional information on other sources for the book. But yes, it will be available anytime after November 15th.
And okay, that sounds good.
Yes.
So how long did it take you to write your book?
So I started my story, I would say 2021, I started
Mhm.
writing. I actually had a very traumatic experience in 2021, and I had to take some time. And I started writing. And
Mhm.
every day I would write, and I would put some, and I would write and put. And then eventually I have compiled lots of information.
Mhm.
And then I reach out to someone who can edit and do all the other things for me. So I will say about a year and a half, a year and a half going on 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any writer's block during that time
Oh,
or no?
yes. I
Yes.
always do.
You
I
always
always do, especially when I'm trying to remember a story. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that I found also is that when I dig deep, I go through emotions, and I was going literally reliving some of those experiences.
Yeah.
In order to bring them out in this way. And I didn't realize that is the one surprise I had, because I thought it would have been easy for me to just write and just put it there and leave it. But no, it actually put me back into some of the spaces. And I feel like that's a good thing, because it's part of healing also.
Healing. Yeah.
So I had those moments where sometimes I would write, and as I'm reading over a chapter, I would be in tears, and then my husband would have to come there, and he helps to offset some of that, or my kids. But yes, but it has been unexpectedly a process that I didn't expect would have affected me to this point. Yeah.
Okay. So
and my goal is to I have a few more books, and the thing about when you start writing and you put a book out there, then you're like, wow, okay, there's lots more to me that I can put out there. But I'm looking forward to this book being an inspiration to lots of women. And coming from the Caribbean and coming to the USA and having to adapt and assimilate into a new world.
Yeah.
All of that. I touched a little bit on all of that for women who are doing the same. As an African American Caribbean woman, being in a space in these hospitals where I sit there and I have to make decisions, and I'm speaking to the C-suiters, and I'm having these conversations. That is God.
Yeah.
Because coming from where I came from, I could never envision where I am.
Yeah. That's God. Yes, that's God.
And I have to share my story, because you don't just get to point A to point B if God is not in the midst of that. And I'm getting goosebumps, but I'm really hoping that my book is not just a great read, but it talks a lot about the resilience it takes to get through and to get to a greater place. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yes.
I think it's going to be awesome.
So what is the final words before we get off here for the audience? What would you like to share with the audience?
One of the things that I would like to say, this is a motto that I live by, both in my personal and my professional world, and it's by Maya Angelou. And, one of the things, she always says, she says, people will forget what you say. They will forget what you do, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Yes.
And I feel like it's important that we do right by ourselves, but also by the people, the ones that we are influencing, whether directly or indirectly, because who we are as a people transcends into what we're about. So I am big on that. And I hope that with everything that is going on in our world today, I hope and I pray that we will all find that peace, and that anybody that comes into our space, they would leave feeling better than they came. And that is one of the things that I would love to see and love to spread.
That's right.
In the world. Yes.
Sounds good. I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
I
enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Tina. I know this is the first of many. Yes. We are going to do this again.
Yeah. So you can come back on when your book is actually out and talk about it. Yeah. That'll be good. And any other projects that we can collaborate on, are more than willing.
Yes, well, I appreciate that. And I want to say to you, Tina, I thank you for having this platform. We need it. It's lots of us have such greatness within us, but we don't, it's two things. We either are afraid to put it out, or we are not aware we have it.
Yes.
But I thank you for creating a platform so that women and people can get out and speak and empower and inspire and uplift. You know,
Yes.
God is using you in this way. And I
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for that.
Yes, thank you so much.
I
That was
salute you.
yes, thank you. That's